Syria's President Ahmed al-Sharaa has announced the formation of a new transitional government. During his speech, al-Sharaa said the new authority will rebuild state institutions, ensure the protection of citizens and promote stability. The announcement of the transitional government comes months after the end of more than 50 years of Assad family rule in December. Al Jazeera's Resul Serdar is in Beirut with the latest.
It's a historic day for Syria. Now the country has a new government. When we look at the formation of the new government, we see that in key ministries, the president of the country has reappointed his close friends, such as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Defense, the Minister of Interior, and also the Ministry of Justice. But on the other hand, the rest of the cabinet are new names. Hind Qabawat, for example, she's the only female member of the cabinet, and she's coming from a Christian background. Also, there are the ministers that are coming from Kurdish background, also ministers from the Druze backgrounds as well. So by doing that, the president of the country is trying to show Syrians and the world that the new government is reflecting the diversity of Syria. Because one of the main criticisms toward the previous government was that it was too one-colored. People were criticizing the president, saying that he has appointed all of his close friends to all of the ministerial positions. And the president back then was saying, well, he's doing that because he just needs to have a healthy transitional period. But now, 4 months after the fall of Bashar al-Assad, he's coming up with a new government that is more inclusive, more colored, and different people with different backgrounds. Another takeaway from this new formation of the government is that there is no post of prime minister anymore. It's dissolved. So that means that now the president of the country is both the head of state and head of the government. So another takeaway is that the new political system of Syria is not a parliamentarian system, but rather an executive presidential system headed by Ahmed al-Sharaa. Resul Serdar, Al Jazeera, Beirut.
All right, so let's bring in Qutaiba Idlbi. He's a senior fellow with the Atlantic Council's Rafik Hariri Center and Middle East Programs, and he leads the council's work on Syria. He joins us live now from Washington, D.C. So, Qutaiba, what do you make of this new transitional government? Is this more of an effort to appease the West, or are these appointees people who have robust credentials which qualifies them to deliver the Prime Minister's objectives to rebuild the country?
I think overall, the new formation of the government truly represents a new shift. I think in addition to what your report just mentioned, I think we've seen a lot of expertise, especially from civil society, coming into this new government. Syrian civil society, who have really taken a lot of the state tasks in the last 14 years, now constitutes almost 50% of this government. A lot of the names actually have been covering those key sectors, again, in the last 14 years. Ms. Hind Qabawat, who is the Minister now for Social Affairs, for example, is a well-known civil society activist and leader, and has been so for the last 15 years. Mr. Rafik, the Minister of Emergency, has been leading the famous White Helmets organization, the #1 first responders organization in Syria that have saved tens of thousands of lives across the country. I think overall Syrians really feel very positive about this new government.
Okay.
At the same time, it's definitely sending a message to the West that the new leaders in Damascus are not planning to monopolize power, and they're trying to also be as representative or as inclusive as they can be.
OK, so it's worth pointing out, though, that there are no Alawites in the lineup, no prime minister, but there are Druze and Christians. So what does this say briefly about inclusivity, and also how al-Sharaa wants to keep power close to him with people he can trust?
I may have to correct you here that there are Alawite ministers. So Mr. Yarub Badr, the Minister of Transportation, is an Alawite from Tartus, and he actually used to serve under the Syrian government, under the regime of Bashar al-Assad. I think overall, there is a point that President Sharaa is trying to make, which is that he needs to maintain control over key ministries to ensure stability over the short and medium term. But at the same time, I think he showed openness to including other groups in areas that may not really impact the stability of the country. Because we've also seen the appointment among this government, the appointment of 4 ministers who actually have served under the Assad regime before. So not only that there are, again, it is symbolic representation of ethnic and religious minorities, but also there is some institutional memory and continuation from previous governments.
How much is the broader international aim of this transitional government about showing the West that Syria is on the right track to rebuilding democracy and perhaps eventually having sanctions lifted?
I think there is definitely that is definitely a big factor in this formation. As much as the new Syrian government is trying to message to the Syrian people, there is a key component messaging to the international community, but specifically to the United States, which currently, by its sanction programs, is really putting a hold on Syria and on Syria's ability to move forward. So I think Washington is definitely the #1 audience for this formation. And so far, from what I heard in Washington, there is cautious optimism about this formation of the government. They see there is optimism about the fact, for example, that security agencies now are part of the civil government, basically under the Ministry of Interior. The symbolic representation, again, is an advancement, even though it is symbolic. Many have wished to see more women in the formation, but these are all issues that hopefully could be addressed over the medium term.
OK, Qutaiba Idlbi, many thanks for your time.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.